The July sun blazed down on Birmingham, Alabama, turning the air into a thick, sticky haze. It was 2025, and the hum of traffic along Interstate 65 filled the afternoon with a restless energy. Inside the sleek black Cadillac one, Donald Trump sat with his arms crossed, his sharp eyes half focused on the cityscape blurring past the tinted windows. His lead advisor, a wiry man with a clipboard, rattled off stats about local unemployment. "Sir, the numbers here are tough. Steel industry's still hurting," the advisor said, his voice clipped. Trump nodded absently, but something outside caught his gaze. "Hold up," he muttered, leaning forward. "What's that?" Through the shimmering heat waves rising off the asphalt, a small figure stood alone near the highway off-ramp. A girl, no older than 10, clutched a ragged piece of cardboard in her dirt-streaked hands. Her brown hair clung to her sweaty forehead, and her faded blue t-shirt hung loose on her frail frame. The sign she held trembled slightly, but the words scrawled in black marker were bold and clear. "Please help. My mom's dying. We've got nothing." Her wide green eyes locked onto the motorcade, piercing through the chaos of honking horns and rushing cars. There was a quiet desperation in her stare, a plea that hit harder than any speech Trump had heard that day. "Stop the damn car," Trump barked, his voice cutting through the hum of the air conditioning. The driver flinched, and the Cadillac screeched to a halt, tires squealing against the pavement. The trailing SUVs jolted, their engines grumbling as the entire motorcade froze. Inside, the security team erupted. "Sir, this isn't the plan." A burly bodyguard snapped, his hand already on his earpiece. "This stretch is a hot spot. Drugs, gangs, you name it. We can't stop here." Trump turned, his jaw tight. "I said stop. I'm not asking." The advisor chimed in, his tone urgent. "Mr. Trump, we're exposed. Let's keep moving and send someone back later." Trump's eyes narrowed. "Later? That kid's out there now. I want to know what's going on." The door swung open with a heavy thud, and Trump stepped out, his polished shoes hitting the cracked asphalt. A wave of muggy heat slammed into him, but he didn't flinch. The roar of the highway faded as heads turned, drivers craning their necks, a few pulling out phones to record. He adjusted his tie, his gaze fixed on the girl. She stood just yards away, her small hands tightening around the sign as he approached. Her eyes widened, a flicker of fear mixing with that stubborn spark of hope. Trump stopped a few feet from her, crouching slightly to meet her level. "Hey, kid," he said, his voice softening but still carrying that commanding edge. "What's your name?" The girl swallowed hard, her lips trembling. "Emma. Emma Lane, sir," she whispered, barely audible over the distant rumble of traffic. Her fingers clutched the cardboard like a lifeline. Trump tilted his head, studying her smudged face and tangled hair. "Emma Lane, huh? That's a strong name. Why you out here all alone with that sign?" Her gaze dropped to the ground for a moment, then snapped back up, braver now. "My mom, Ruth Shaw, she's real sick. Can't hardly breathe no more. My daddy was a Marine, died in Afghanistan. We ain't got nobody left, and the doctors won't help 'cause we can't pay." Her voice cracked, but she held his stare, tears welling up in those green eyes. Trump froze, his expression shifting, something hard and unreadable softening into a deep, quiet intensity. "A Marine, you say?" he asked, his tone low. Emma nodded, wiping her cheek with a grubby sleeve. "Yes, sir. He was brave, but when he didn't come home, everything fell apart." Trump straightened up, his brows furrowing as he glanced back at the idling motorcade. The bodyguard hovered nearby, muttering into his radio. "Sir, we need to move now." Trump waved him off, his focus locked on Emma. "Where's your mom at, Emma? Right now, where is she?" Emma pointed a shaky finger toward a narrow dirt path snaking beneath the overpass. "Down there, not far. We got a little place, but it ain't much." Her voice wavered, but there was a fierce determination in it, like she'd been carrying this weight too long to let it break her now. Trump turned to his team, his voice rising with a steely edge. "Get the car ready. We're going where she says." The advisor stepped forward, sweat beading on his forehead. "Sir, that's a bad idea. That area's a damn mess. We can't guarantee your safety." Trump spun on him, his eyes blazing. If this little girl can stand here begging for her mom, I can damn well walk down there. You scared? Stay in the car. A hush fell over the team. No one dared argue. Trump looked back at Emma, his expression softening again. All right, Emma Lane, he said, resting a firm hand on her shoulder. You lead the way. Let's go see your mom. She blinked up at him, a flicker of disbelief crossing her face before she nodded, gripping her sign tighter. As they started toward the path, the motorcade rumbled back to life behind them, engines growling like a storm on the horizon. The air thickened with tension, the weight of what was coming next hanging heavy. Whatever lay down that dirt road, Trump wasn't turning back, and neither was Emma. The dirt path beneath the I-65 overpass stretched ahead like a scar through Birmingham's underbelly, flanked by sagging shacks patched with rusted tin and splintered wood. Emma Lane trudged forward, her small sneakers kicking up red dust that clung to her legs. Trump followed close behind, his polished shoes sinking slightly into the uneven ground. The air hung heavy with the stench of rotting garbage and gasoline, a sour tang that stung the nose. Behind them, the motorcade crawled along, engines rumbling low, headlights slicing through the shadows of the towering concrete pillars. A stray dog barked in the distance, its howls echoing off the graffiti-streaked walls. Emma glanced back at Trump, her green eyes flickering with a mix of hope and nerves. It's just up here, sir, she said, her voice small but steady. Ain't much, but it's home. Trump nodded, his jaw tight as he scanned the crumbling homes, some no bigger than sheds, their roofs sagging under years of neglect. This we've been living? He asked, his tone sharp with disbelief. Emma shrugged, clutching her cardboard sign tighter. Yes, sir. Since Daddy didn't come back. It's all we could hold on to. The security team fanned out, their boots crunching on broken glass as they muttered into their radios. Sir, this is a damn maze, one guard growled, his hand hovering near his holster. We're sitting ducks down here. Trump shot him a look that could have cut steel. Do your job and watch the perimeter. I'm not here for a picnic. I'm here for her. The advisor, still clutching his clipboard, stepped closer, his voice low and urgent. Mr. Trump, we can call in social services. Let them handle this. It's not safe. Trump stopped dead in his tracks, turning to face him. Social services? Where the hell were they when her mom got sick? No, we're doing this now. Emma led him to a shack tucked against the overpass, its walls pieced together from mismatched planks and a tarp flapping in the breeze. The door, a slab of warped plywood, creaked as she pushed it open. Mama's inside, she whispered, her voice trembling for the first time. Trump ducked through the low frame, the dim interior swallowing the daylight. The air inside was stale, thick with the smell of mildew and sickness. In the corner, on a mattress stained with sweat and time, lay Ruth Shaw. Her thin frame barely made a dent in the padding, her chest rising and falling with shallow, raspy breaths. Her graying hair stuck to her sunken cheeks, and her eyes, hollow but fierce, snapped open as footsteps approached. Who's there? Ruth croaked, struggling to sit up. Her voice was weak, but there was a fire in it, a mother's instinct kicking in. Emma rushed to her side, dropping the sign to grab her hand. Mama, it's okay. This is Mr. Trump. He's here to help us. Ruth's gaze darted to Trump, confusion and suspicion warring in her expression. Trump? Donald Trump? She rasped, coughing into a frail fist. Trump stepped closer, crouching beside the mattress. That's right, ma'am, he said, his voice softening but firm. Emma here caught my eye out there. Said you're in a bad way. What's going on? Ruth's lips quivered, her eyes glistening as she squeezed Emma's hand. My husband, Tom, was a Marine, she began, each word a struggle. Fought in Afghanistan, gave his life over there. After he was gone, I got sick, lungs gave out. Couldn't work, couldn't pay, lost everything. She paused, a tear slipping down her cheek. Now it's just me and Emma, and I can't even take care of her no more. Emma's head bowed, her small shoulders shaking as she fought back sobs. I've been trying, Mama, she whispered. I've been trying so hard. Trump's face hardened, a storm brewing behind his eyes. He stood abruptly, turning to his team clustered at the doorway. "You hear that?" he snapped, his voice rising. "Her husband died for this country, and this is what they get? A damn shack under a bridge?" The advisor flinched, stammering. "Sir, we can't fix this overnight." Trump cut him off, his tone like thunder. "Overnight? She's dying today. Get a doctor down here tonight. I want her checked, and I want it done now." The bodyguard hesitated, his jaw tight. "Sir, this area is a powder keg. We shouldn't linger." Trump rounded on him, eyes blazing. "If a 10-year-old can live here every day, I can stand here for an hour. Move." A shadow moved outside the shack, catching Trump's eye. A man stepped into view. Pastor Lee Holt, a sturdy figure in a worn collared shirt, his dark eyes wide with shock. "Lord have mercy," he said, his deep southern drawl filling the silence. "Mr. Trump? In this part of town?" Trump turned, sizing him up. "You know this place, Pastor?" Lee nodded slowly, stepping closer. "Yes, sir. Been many staring here for years. These folks, half of them, are vet families, left to rot after their kin came home in boxes. Ain't nobody cared till now." Trump's gaze softened for a split second, then sharpened again. "Well, I care," he said, his voice low and resolute. "Emma's not fighting alone anymore." He looked down at Ruth, her breathing ragged, then back at Emma, who clung to her mother's side. "We're getting you out of this hole," he promised, his words heavy with intent. "But first, I need to see more, understand what's really happening down here." Pastor Lee tilted his head, a faint smile breaking through. "You sure about that, sir? Ain't pretty." Trump smirked, a glint of defiance in his eyes. "I didn't come for pretty. Let on, Pastor." As they stepped back into the humid dusk, the shack's tarp flapped like a flag of surrender. The motorcade loomed nearby, a dark silhouette against the orange sky. Trump glanced at Emma, her tear-streaked face glowing with a fragile hope. Whatever came next, this was just the beginning, and the weight of that truth hung in the air, thick as the Alabama heat. The shadows clawed long and sharp beneath the I-65 overpass as Trump trailed Pastor Lee Holt into Birmingham's forgotten depths. The air thrummed with unease, thick with the growl of traffic above and the rustle of trash skittering across the dirt. Emma Lane stuck close, her small hand brushing Trump's sleeve, her green eyes darting with a mix of fear and grit. Shacks crowded tighter here, their warped frames sagging like broken dreams under the Alabama dusk. The faint hum of a generator buzzed somewhere, a weak pulse in this dying place. Pastor Lee paused, boots crunching gravel as he waved a hand at the maze of homes. "This is the hollow, Mr. Trump," he said, his voice low and heavy. "Vet families, left to rot after the wars ended." Trump's jaw clenched, his gaze raking over the tarp roofs and cracked windows. "How many?" he asked, sharp and direct. Lee sighed, rubbing his neck. "Dozens, sir. Too many to count. Nobody bothers check in no more." Trump's lips pressed into a thin line, his silence louder than words. A figure lurched from a shack, blocking their path. Jake Reed stood tall, his tank top faded, arms scarred from years of hard fights. His dark eyes blazed with fury as he planted himself in front of Trump. "Well, damn," he rasped, voice rough as gravel. "Donald Trump, slum it down here. What's this, some PR stunt?" Trump squared his shoulders, meeting Jake's glare head-on. "No stunt, Reed," he said, voice steady but edged with steel. "Just me and a kid with more guts than you. Got a problem with that." Jake barked a laugh, bitter and loud, echoing off the concrete pillars. "Yeah, were you when my VA check stopped? When my kid quit school to eat? You're late, hero." Trump's eyes narrowed, locking onto Jake's like a predator sizing up a challenge. "I'm here now," he said, each word a hammer strike. "Yell all you want, but tell me your story." Jake's smirk faltered, pain cracking his tough shell. "Iraq, 2 tours," he spat, voice breaking. "Came home to zilch. Wife bolted, kids working instead of learning. That real enough for you?" The guards tensed, eyes flicking to shadows down the row. 3 hooded figures leaned against a rusted car, cigs glowing, stares cold and hard. "Sir, trouble's brewing," a guard hissed, hand on his radio. Trump waved him off. "Hold your ground. I'm not done." Pastor Lee stepped between them, hands up like a referee. "Easy, Jake," he urged, calm but firm. "He's hearing you out." Jake's fists loosened, his voice dropping to a raw mutter. "Hear and don't fix this." Trump leaned in, fierce. "It's a star read. I'm here to do, not just talk." Emma tugged his sleeve, her voice small but bold. "There's more, sir, like Jake. Please stay." Trump nodded, resolve hardening. "All right, Emma," he said, low and sure. "Show me. Every damn story." The group moved on, the air growing heavier as they neared a shack with a flickering bulb dangling from a wire. Pastor Lee knocked, and the door creaked open, revealing Lori Dunn. She was wiry, her blonde hair pulled back tight, her blue eyes sunken from sleepless nights. 3 kids peeked from behind her, grubby faces clothes too big, staring at Trump like he'd dropped from the sky. "Pastor?" Lori asked, voice shaky. "Who's this?" Lee gestured. "Lori, meet Mr. Trump. He's here cause of Emma." Lori's gaze darted to the girl, then back, suspicion flaring. "Trump? What's he want with us?" Trump stepped forward, his tone softening but firm. "I want to know what happened, Lori," he said. "Emma says there's folks like her mom down here. You one of them?" Lori's shoulders slumped, her hands twisting a frayed dish rag. "My brother, Billy, was Army," she said, voice trembling. "Died in Iraq. Left me with these 3. No help, no nothing. I scrape by cleaning houses when I can, but it ain't enough." A sob caught in her throat, and her oldest, a boy about 12, put a hand on her arm. "We're okay, Mama," he whispered, but his eyes said different. Trump's face darkened, a storm brewing as he turned to his team. "You hearing this?" he snapped, voice rising. "Her brother gave his life, and she's raising kids in a damn box." The advisor flinched, stammering. "Sir, we can coordinate with agencies." Trump cut him off, furious. "Agencies? They've been sitting on their hands while these people rot. I want a list, every family, every need, on my desk by dawn." "Move." The guard shifted, uneasy. "Sir, those guys down there, they're watching. We're pushing our luck." Trump glared. "Let them watch. I'm not leaving till I've seen it all." Emma pointed to the next shack, her voice steady despite the tears streaking her face. "Over there's old Mr. Hayes. He was a soldier too," she said. "Can't walk no more." Trump nodded, his expression unreadable but burning with purpose. The crowd was growing now, faces peering from doorways, whispers rippling through the hollow. He climbed onto a rusted barrel, his voice booming over the hum of the overpass. "Listen up," he shouted, silencing the murmurs. "You've been forgotten, left to fend for yourselves. That ends today. I'm not walking out till I know you're taken care of." A few hands clapped, hesitant at first, then louder, ragged cheers breaking through the dusk. Jake crossed his arms, still wary, but his eyes softened. Lori wiped her face, hope flickering in her gaze. The hooded figures shifted, one flicking his cigarette to the ground, their silence heavier than before. Trump stepped down, turning to Emma. "You started this, kid," he said, voice low and fierce. "You're braver than all of us." She nodded, clutching his hand. The hollow pulsed with a new energy, anger, hope, and danger swirling together. Whatever came next, this wasn't just a visit anymore. It was a fight. The dusk deepened over Birmingham, casting the hollow in a bruised purple glow as word of Trump's stand rippled beyond the shacks. A grainy cell phone video, shot by a shaky hand near the overpass, hit the internet like a spark on dry grass. Trump stops Motorcade for homeless girl trended fast. The hashtag Birmingham Hope, lighting up screens across Alabama by nightfall. Under the I-65 pillars, the air buzzed with a restless energy, whispers turning to murmurs, then shouts as faces gathered outside Pastor Lee Holt's weathered church just blocks from Emma's shack. The wooden steeple loomed against the sky, its peeling paint a testament to years of neglect, yet tonight it glowed with purpose. Inside, the pews creaked under the weight of dozens worn-out mothers, grizzled vets, kids with dirt-streaked cheeks, all crammed shoulder to shoulder. Pastor Lee stood at the pulpit, his deep voice cutting through the hum. "Folks, this ain't about politics," he said, hands gripping the wornwood. "It's about us, about souls left behind. And tonight, we got someone listening to." He nodded toward Trump, who stood near the front, sleeves rolled up, his sharp eyes scanning the sea of faces. Emma Lane sat beside him, her small frame dwarfed by the crowd, her green eyes shining with a fragile hope. A murmur swelled as Trump stepped forward, his presence silencing the room. "I saw something today," he began, voice low but rising like a storm. "A little girl, Emma, stand on a highway with a sign, begging for her mom's life. And then I saw this place, the Hollow. Vet families, good people living like ghosts." He paused, letting the words sink in. "Her mom's in a hospital bed right now, 'cause I made it happen. But it's not enough, not when there's dozens more like her." The crowd stirred, a few nodding, others clutching hands tight. Jake Reed leaned against a wall near the back, arms crossed, his scarred face a mask of doubt. "Sounds pretty," he called out, voice cutting sharp. "But what's next, Trump? You gonna leave us with promises and a pat on the head?" Heads turned, tension crackling. Trump locked eyes with him, unflinching. "No, Reed," he said, voice hard. "I'm putting my money where my mouth is. Right now, tonight, I'm starting a fund. Call it the Southern Valor Fund. Every family here gets help. Started with Ruth Shaw." Jake's jaw twitched, but he stayed silent, his gaze flickering. Trump pulled out his phone, dialing loud enough for all to hear. "Yeah, it's me," he barked into the line. "Walmart's got stores all over Alabama. Tell him to send trucks. Food, clothes, supplies now." He hung up, turning back to the crowd. "That's step one. Step two, I want every CEO with a heart to pitch in. This ain't a handout. It's a debt we owe." Cheers erupted, ragged at first, then thunderous. A woman near the front sobbed openly, clutching a faded photo of a soldier. Pastor Lee raised a hand, his voice booming. "Y'all know this song. Let's sing it proud." The room swelled with the opening chords of Sweet Home Alabama, voices rough but strong, echoing off the rafters. Trump stood still, watching as Emma swayed beside him, her lips moving to the words she barely knew. Outside, headlights flashed. 2 Walmart trucks rolled up, their horns blaring as volunteers spilled out, unloading crates under the flickering streetlights. The crowd spilled onto the steps, gasps turning to shouts of disbelief. Jake pushed off the wall, weaving through the chaos to Trump. "Thought you'd bolt," he said, voice gruff but softer. "Guess I was wrong." Trump smirked, clapping a hand on his shoulder. "Stick with me, Reed. We're just warming up." Jake nodded, a flicker of respect breaking through. "Got a busted roof down the row. Me and some guys can fix it. If you're serious." Trump's eyes glinted. "Dead serious. Lead the way." Lori Dunn stepped up, her kids trailing behind, her voice trembling but firm. "Mr. Trump, my oldest, he's 12. Wants to go back to school," she said. "Can that happen?" Trump crouched to the boy's level, his tone warm. "What's your name, son?" The kid straightened. "Tommy, sir." Trump grinned. "Tommy, you're in school next week. I'll make sure of it." Lori's hand flew to her mouth, tears spilling as Tommy beamed. The church doors stayed open, light pouring into the night as the crowd grew. Neighbors, strangers, even a few of the hooded figures from the shadows, now lingering at the edges, watching. Trump turned to Pastor Lee, voice low. "This is bigger than I thought," he said. "How far can we take it?" Lee smiled, weary but sure. "Far as you're willing to push, sir. These folks, they're ready to rise." Trump nodded, his gaze sweeping the faces, tired, hopeful, alive. The singing faded, but the energy didn't. Trump stepped outside, the cool night air hitting his face as he faced the growing throng. "This isn't just Birmingham's fight," he shouted, voice ringing. "It's America's fight. We're going to show the world what happens when good people stand up." The crowd roared, fists pumping, tears flowing. Emma slipped her hand into his, her voice a whisper. "Thank you, sir, for not leaving." Trump squeezed her hand, his resolve ironclad. "Never, kid. We're in this till the end." The hollow pulsed with life, trucks unloading, voices rising, a spark igniting something unstoppable. The night was young, and the fire was spreading. 3 months later, the Alabama sun burned bright over Birmingham, its golden light spilling across Kelly Ingram Park. The hollow had changed, shacks patched with fresh wood, kids chasing each other on new playgrounds, the hum of hope replacing the silence of despair. The Southern Valor Fund, born that night in Pastor Lee's church, had grown into a force. Millions poured in from across the South, trucks rolling out aid, families lifted from the shadows. Ruth Shaw walked again, her lungs stronger, her hands steady as she waved from a folding chair near the park's edge. Emma Lane stood beside her, a crisp white dress brushing her knees, her green eyes wide with a wonder she'd never known. The crowd swelled, 100 strong, vet families, volunteers, locals with tears already brimming. At the center, a bronze statue gleamed under a tarp. The soldier's child, a Marine kneeling to hold his daughter's hand, etched with the words their sacrifice, our duty. Trump stood at a podium, his suit crisp despite the heat, his voice carrying over the rustling leaves. Today's not about me, he began, firm and clear. It's about them, the ones who gave everything, and the families they left behind. Emma Lane showed me that. One girl with a sign changed it all. Cheers erupted, hands clapping, a few shouts of amen cutting through. Ruth dabbed her eyes, whispering to Emma, "You hear that, baby? That's you." Emma nodded, her small hand clutching her mom's, her voice barely audible. "I just wanted you safe, Mama." Trump gestured to them, his tone softening. "Ruth, Emma, come up here." The crowd parted as they climbed the steps, Ruth leaning on Emma's arm, her frail frame steadier now. Trump shook Ruth's hand, then crouched to Emma. "You're the real hero, kid," he said, voice low. "What you got to say?" Emma froze, the mic trembling in her grip as she faced the sea of faces. I'm just Emma Lane," she started, voice shaky but growing. "All I wanted was to save my mom. Stood out there with that sign. Thought no one cared. But y'all did. Mr. Trump did. Now my mama's better, and folks like us, we're not alone no more." Her lip quivered, but she pushed on. "Thank you for saving us all." The park exploded, applause thundering, whistles piercing the air, grown men wiping tears as women hugged their kids tight. Jake Reed stood near the front, his tank top swapped for a clean shirt, his scarred hands busy unloading toolboxes earlier that day. He caught Trump's eye, nodding slow. "Build a shop down the road," he called out, voice gruff but proud. "Fix roofs for free now, thanks to you." Trump grinned, clapping back. "Told you, Reed, we're a team." Lori Dunn stepped up too, Tommy at her side in a new backpack. "He's in school, sir," she said, voice thick. "First time in years." Trump ruffled Tommy's hair. "Good man, Tommy. Keep it up." Pastor Lee took the mic, his deep drawl steadying the crowd. "This ain't the end, y'all," he said. "Southern Valor's going statewide, then nationwide. We're building on what Emma started." The tarp dropped, revealing the statue, bronze gleaming, the Marine's face etched with quiet strength, his daughter's hand small but sure. A hush fell, then a roar as folks surged forward, hands brushing the base, whispers of lost names filling the air. Trump stepped back to the podium, his voice rising over the din. "Emma taught me something," he said, fierce and clear. "Courage don't care about age. It's in the heart. She lit this fire, but it's ours to keep burning. Every vet family, every kid like Tommy, they deserve this. So don't stop. Share this story. Join us. Make it bigger." The crowd chanted, "Birmingham Hope." Fists raised, faces alight with a fire that hadn't flickered in years. Emma tugged Trump's sleeve, her voice a whisper. "Did I do good, sir?" He knelt, eyes warm. "Kid, you did great. This is your legacy now." She smiled, small, real, the first in too long. Ruth pulled her close, tears streaming as she mouthed, "Thank you." The park pulsed with life. Kids laughing, vets shaking hands, the statues standing tall. Trump turned to Pastor Lee, voice low. "How far can this go?" Lee grinned. "Far as the heart takes it, sir." The sun dipped low, casting long shadows from the statue across the grass. Trump stepped back, watching the crowd, Jake hammering a sign for his shop, Lori hugging Tommy, Emma clinging to Ruth. "This isn't over," he said to his team, voice iron. "Every resource, every dime. I'm overseeing this myself." The advisor nodded, awed. "Yes, sir. It's a movement now." Trump smirked. "Damn right it is." The video feed cut to a final frame. Emma's sign, now framed in the church, beside the words, "Subscribe and share. Every step counts." The park faded to dusk, but the light lingered. Hope carved in bronze, alive in every soul there. This wasn't the end, it was a promise.